Jungkook had always been the perfect husband, attentive, gentle, and loving. Ever since you announced your pregnancy, his love for you had only grown. He would wake up before you, prepare breakfast, make sure you took all your vitamins, and pamper you as if you were the most delicate thing in the world. His excitement for the baby was unmatched. He would talk to your belly every night, telling stories, singing lullabies, and making promises of love and protection. But that night, something changed. It started the moment Jungkook entered the house. He was late again, but this time you didn't even ask why. You sat on the couch resting your hand on your swollen belly while your heart was pounding against your ribs. You knew he had found out. The way he didn't meet your eyes, the way his shoulders tensed as he set down his keys, the way that love and care from his eyes were gone, replaced with disbelief and anger. It was enough to confirm your worst fear. He knew, still you stayed silent, hoping, praying that maybe he would say something else. But then Jungkook turned to you and you visibly flinched when he spoke, although his voice was dangerously quiet. Are you going to tell me or should I say it for you? Your throat closed up. You couldn't breathe. You couldn't speak a word, and that frustrated him even more. He was the same Jungkook who never raised his voice at you, who never got mad at you, but today he was extremely angry. His voice was sharp, strained, like he was holding himself back from completely breaking. Tell me, Ryan. Tell me why the hell my wife met her ex behind my back. Your breath hitched. Your entire body stiffened. This was what he had found out. You had prayed he would never know, not because you had done something wrong, but because you didn't want to see this look in his eyes, the one that screamed betrayal. Jungkook, your voice came out barely above a whisper. It's not what you think. His bitter laugh sent a shiver down your spine. Not what I think? Then please enlighten me. What exactly am I supposed to think when my pregnant wife meets her ex without telling me? Your lips parted, but no words came. How could you explain something that even sounded bad to your own ears? He took a step forward, eyes burning with disappointment. You swore there was nothing left between you two. You swore you would never talk to him again. And yet here I am, hearing from someone else that my wife sat across from him in a cafe, talking like nothing ever happened. Tears pricked your eyes, but you refused to let them fall. I didn't want to see him, Jungkook. He came to me, I tried to leave, and yet you didn't. His voice rose, frustration cracking through. You swallowed hard. I didn't because he begged me to listen. He said it was important. Jungkook scoffed, running a hand through his hair. Important? And what exactly was so damn important that you couldn't walk away? What was so important that you had to keep it from me? The throat tightened. This was the moment. The truth was right there on the tip of your tongue, but your fear, your guilt held it back. Jungkook stared at you, waiting. His patience was thinning, his heart breaking more with every passing second. You can't even say it, can you? You bit your lip because it was true. You can't say it because if you did, you fear things might be very bad, and that's what's going to happen. Say it, Ryan. His voice cracked. Say the damn words or I swear I... He stopped himself, inhaling sharply, his hands shaking at his sides. I don't know if I can do this anymore. That did it. That shattered you. You looked at him with tears-filled eyes. Tears spilled down your cheeks as you clutched your stomach, your baby kicking gently inside you as if sensing the pain in the air. I didn't tell you because he said something that broke me, Jungkook. Your voice trembled, raw with emotion. He told me that our baby, you hesitated looking away, your vision blurred, that it might not be yours. There was a pin-drop silence for some time. The kind that didn't just fill a room but suffocated it. Jungkook went impossibly still. His breath, once heavy with anger, now felt absent. What? Your hands trembled as you wiped your tears. He told me that when we broke up, before I met you, he and I, we were still, you exhaled shakily. He said there's a chance, a small one, that maybe... Jungkook took a step back, like you had physically struck him. So you're telling me, after everything, after all these months of waiting for our baby, you're not sure if I'm the father? His words were like knives, each one cutting deeper than the last. You shook your head furiously, desperation taking over. No, Jungkook, it's not like that. I know in my heart that this baby is yours, but when he said those words, it it messed with my head. It made me question things I never should have questioned. Jungkook let out a sharp exhale, his hands gripping his hair. So instead of coming to me, your husband, the man who loves you more than anything, you sat there and listened to him? You sobbed, your knees nearly buckling. I didn't mean to, Jungkook. I was scared. I didn't want to plant those doubts in your mind too. I knew that wasn't the truth. He clenched his jaw, his gaze burning with unshed tears. But you did, Ryan. You did the moment you hid it from me. I can't believe. Silence stretched between you both, heavy and unbearable. He stood frozen, his breathing ragged, his entire body trembling as if he were fighting a war within himself. His fingers twitched at his sides before slowly moving towards his left hand. Your heart clenched as you realized what he was about to do, his wedding ring. Jungkook, no, please. Your voice cracked as you took a hesitant step towards him, eyes wide with fear. He didn't respond. Instead, his fingers wrapped around the ring, gripping it so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His lips parted, breath shaky as if even the thought of taking it off hurt him more than words could describe. He looked at you then, truly looked at you, and it broke you. Because beneath all the anger, beneath the storm raging in his eyes, there was something worse, betrayal. You were my everything, Ryan. I trusted you with all I had. Your tears fell freely. I didn't betray you, Jungkook. I swear, and you know I can't do that. It was just... Then why did you hide it? His voice cracked, his fist trembling. Why did I have to find out from someone else? Why did you let him plant that doubt in your mind? Why did you meet him? You opened your mouth but nothing came out. Jungkook let out a sharp bitter chuckle, shaking his head. I fought the whole world for us, Ryan. I swore I would never let anyone come between us, but I never thought... His voice broke, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed hard. I never thought it would be you. You felt like your heart was being ripped out of your chest. Jungkook, don't do this, please. His gaze dropped to his hand. He exhaled shakily before, in one swift motion, sliding the ring off his finger. Your breath hitched. No. He held it between his fingers, staring at it, his entire body screaming reluctance. He didn't want to do this, but the pain, the anger, the devastation, it was too much. His lips parted, voice barely above a whisper. Do you even know what this meant to me? You sobbed, Jungkook, please don't. His jaw clenched and then you heard a clink. The ring hit the floor. The small, delicate sound echoed in the heavy silence, louder than any scream, louder than any plea. It spun once, twice, before coming to a stop between you. Your knees gave out. You collapsed to the floor, hands shaking as you reached for it. Jungkook flinched at the sight, his own pain reflecting in his eyes. For a moment, just a moment, he looked like he was about to step forward, like he was about to take it all back, but then he clenched his fist. I can't do this. He whispered more to himself than to you. His voice was distant, empty, like he was breaking right in front of you. You gasped between sobs. You are leaving? Jungkook took a shaky step back, then another, and then, in a voice so broken, so filled with anguish, he said the words that shattered you completely. I don't think I know how to stay. And then, before you could stop him, before you could beg him to stay, he threw the ring and turned away. The second Jungkook turned his back, something inside you shattered. Your knees buckled, a sharp gasp tore from your lips as you reached for the couch, gripping it with trembling fingers to keep yourself from collapsing. Your entire body shook, not just from exhaustion, but from the unbearable weight crushing your chest. He walked away, the man who had loved you like no one else, the man who had held you through your darkest nights, the man who had vowed to never leave, just left. Your vision blurred, your breath coming in uneven gasps. The baby inside you kicked, a small, gentle reminder that you weren't alone, but at that moment you felt more alone than you had ever. Because before Jungkook, loneliness had been your only companion. Before Jungkook, your life had been a mess, a whirlwind of bad decisions, misplaced trust and heartbreak, and at the center of it all had been Minho, your first love, the kind of love that sweeps you up like a hurricane, blinding you to the damage it leaves behind, the kind of love that convinces you it's the only thing you'll ever need until it turns into a slow, suffocating poison. Minho had been everything you thought you wanted, sweet, charming, the kind of man who knew exactly what to say to make you feel special. But love, when built on lies and manipulation, was nothing more than a beautiful illusion. He had control you without you even realizing it. His words, his actions always keeping you on edge, making you feel like you were never enough, but also making you fear losing him. So you stayed too long until the night you found out he was cheating. You had walked away, heartbroken but determined to never look back, and then Jungkook happened. He had always been there in the background, a familiar face, a mutual acquaintance. You had never looked at him twice. Never thought he looked at you any differently. He was your best friend. He held you, he comforted you, and in your weakness, you let yourself fall into him. It was just one night, or so you thought, until 2 months later when you found out you were pregnant. Jungkook hadn't hesitated. The moment he knew, he told you he wanted to be with you, that he would take responsibility, that this baby, whether planned or not, was a blessing. He loved you, and slowly you fell in love with him too. Your wedding had been rushed but intimate. You had started a new life together, and for 7 months, Jungkook had been nothing but the perfect husband until today, until Minho came back, and one incident changed everything. Until he planted a doubt in your mind that you never should have let grow. You clutched your stomach, a sob broke free from your lips. Jungkook, please come back. Your cheeks were wet from tears and fear gripping you from every side, but he didn't come back. And as the door clicked shut behind him, you felt your world fall apart. You collapsed onto the floor, your fingers desperately feeling around for the ring. Through blurry tears, your chest ached with every sob, your breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Your baby bump made it hard to bend, hard to move, but you didn't care. You had to find it. You had to put it back on his finger. Because if you didn't, he would leave. The thought sent a fresh wave of panic crashing over you. Jungkook, you whimpered, voice broken as your hands trembled, feeling around the cold floor. The ring had to be there. It had to be. Your vision swam as exhaustion pressed heavily on your body. You were already so tired, already so drained, but the fear of losing him kept you crawling, kept you searching. Your hands scraped against the floor, your fingers numb. A sob tore from your throat as you pushed yourself up slightly, only to collapse again. Your body refused to keep up. Your baby kicked softly as if sensing your distress. You clutched your belly, gasping for air, whispering, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Jungkook came outside, his chest was rising and falling in ragged breaths as he ran a shaky hand through his hair, his vision blurred, not from cold night air, but from the tears burning his eyes. The revelation had shattered him. He knew this can't be true, that child is definitely his, but for a second that doubt shattered him. All this time he had trusted you, loved you, built a life with you, and yet one conversation with Minho, one carefully planted doubt, had been enough to make him question everything. But now, standing alone with his heart splitting apart, he felt the weight of his mistake crash down on him like a storm. He had walked away, he left you, and in anger he had thrown away the very thing he promised he never would, your trust. His fist clenched, his nails digging into his palms as he squeezed his eyes shut. He was well aware of your past, how much you had suffered in that toxic relationship, how Minho had made you feel small, worthless, like you weren't enough. Yet, even after all of that, you had stayed because that's what Minho had done to you. He had manipulated you so deeply that you couldn't leave, even when every part of you was breaking. But you had left. You had pulled yourself out of the darkness, out of the pain, out of the suffocating hold he had on you. You had fought for yourself, fought for a life without him. And then Jungkook happened. He had vowed to give you only happiness, to make you forget the pain you had endured, to never be the reason you cried again. And yet, what had he just done? The thought sent panic coursing through his veins. His heart pounded as his breath caught in his throat. He had let his anger take over. He had walked away from the woman carrying his child. He had left you there when he knew. He knew how much abandonment had destroyed you before. His body moved before his mind could catch. He turned on his heels, running back towards the house, his heart slamming against his ribcage, and the moment he stepped inside, he froze. You were on the floor, tears streaming down your face, your body curled slightly in pain as you frantically searched for the ring. Your hands trembled as they moved across the cold floor, your fingers desperate to find it. You were sobbing, completely, utterly broken, and it was because of him. Jungkook felt the breath knock out of his lungs. His anger was gone, his heartbreak was forgotten. The sight of you shattered him even more, making him feel guilty. All that remained was the overwhelming, gut-wrenching pain of watching the woman he loved breaking in front of him. And it was his fault. He saw the way your baby bump made it hard for you to move, the way your body shook from exhaustion, but still you kept searching because in your heart, you truly believed that if you didn't find that ring, he would leave you. The realization destroyed him. A strangled breath left his lips, his feet moving before his brain could process. He rushed towards you, baby. His voice broke as he fell to his knees beside you. Oh my god, no. His hands cupped your face instantly, lifting your tear-soaked gaze to his, and when he saw the raw, desperate pain in your eyes, his heart shattered. I'm so sorry. You sobbed, your voice barely above a whisper. Jungkook, I had to find it. I had to. No, he choked out, shaking his head, hating himself more than ever. No, baby, stop, please. Don't do this to yourself. I didn't mean it. I should have never walked away. I'm so sorry. Your lips trembled as you gripped onto him, your entire body shaking. But you left. I know I should have told you, but I was terrified. I thought you would believe that and hate me. I'm so sorry. But there's nothing like that, I swear. Believe me, Jungkook. I shouldn't have. He whispered, guilt clawing at his throat as he wiped your tears with shaking hands. I shouldn't have left you, baby. I don't give a damn about me, no. I don't care about the past. I care about you. I care about our baby. And I'm so freaking sorry for making you think I would ever leave. I was just not in my right mind. He swallowed hard, his fingers gently tucking a strand of damp hair behind your ear. Just come here, he whispered, pulling you into his arms, and as you broke against him, as your sobs soaked into his shirt, Jungkook held you as tightly as he could. Jungkook held you so tightly as if he could physically piece you back together. His heart clenched painfully at the way you trembled in his arms, your sobs still shaking your entire body. Baby, I'm here, he whispered, pressing soft kisses to the side of your head, his hands rubbing soothing circles over your back. I'm not going anywhere. You clutched onto him like he was the only thing keeping you from breaking completely, and maybe he was. Jungkook felt a slight movement against his stomach, your baby kicking softly between you both, sensing the emotions in the air. He exhaled shakily, his hand instinctively coming down to cradle your belly. I'm so sorry, he whispered against his chest. I shouldn't have let me know. No. His voice was firm but gentle. He pulled back slightly, just enough to look into your teary eyes. His thumbs brushed away the damp trail of your cheeks. You don't apologize, but I... Jungkook shook his head, his own eyes glistening with unshed tears. You have nothing to be sorry for, baby. Nothing. That man, he twisted your mind for years. He made you doubt yourself, but you got out. You fought for yourself and I should have never let his words touch you again. You sniffled, looking down, but he gently tilted your chin back up, forcing you to meet his gaze. I trust you. I know your heart. I know you. And I swear to you, I won't let anyone, not even myself, make you feel like you are not enough. Fresh tears welled up in your eyes, but this time they weren't from heartbreak. They were from the overwhelming love that filled every part of you. Jungkook sighed softly, resting his forehead against yours. But baby, please, please don't ever think I would leave you. You and our little one, you are my life. You let out a shaky breath. But the ring. Jungkook inhaled sharply, pulling back slightly. His brows furrowed as he glanced around, remembering the reason of your distress, and then his eyes landed on it. There, just a little further away from where you had collapsed, the tiny silver band glinted under the dim light. His chest tightened. You had been so desperate to find it. You had exhausted yourself trying to grasp onto something you thought you lost. But the truth was, you never lost it. It had been there all along, just like him. Jungkook swallowed hard before reaching out and carefully picking up the ring, his wedding band. His fingers curled around it tightly as he turned back to you, seeing the way your eyes immediately locked onto it, how your breath hitched as you stared at the small but powerful symbol of your love. With a deep breath, he took your trembling hand in his, pressing it against his chest so you could feel the steady beat of his heart. This ring, this isn't just a piece of metal, it's a promise I made to you, to our baby, to myself, that I will never walk away from you. Your lips parted, a silent sob escaping as you nodded. Jungkook swallowed, eyes never leaving yours, before he slowly, deliberately slid the ring onto his own finger. The moment it was in place, you let out a breath you didn't even realize you were holding. Jungkook cupped your face, his thumb tracing your cheek as he whispered, I'm sorry for acting like that. I'm yours now. Tomorrow, always. Tears slipped down your face, but they were different now. They weren't filled with fear. They weren't filled with pain. They were filled with love, unwavering, undeniable, unconditional love. Jungkook smiled through his own tears, pressing his forehead against yours once again. His voice was soft, but the emotion behind it was unbreakable. I love you with everything I have, with everything I am. A small choked laugh escaped you as you nodded, your arms wrapping around his neck. I love you too. You whispered back, voice raw but full of warmth. Jungkook let out a breath of relief, pulling you into his embrace once more, holding you as if he would never let go. And he wouldn't, not in this life, not in any other, because you and Jungkook were always meant to be.